I'm LeClair, and we're here to share another segment of As Fresh as It Gets in San Mateo County. We're visiting farms, we're talking to winery owners, you name it. We want to let you see behind the scenes. And I'm joined today by Dominick Churichillo. Thank you so much for being here, Dominick.
You're welcome, Ann.
And Dominick owns Domenico Winery in San Carlos.
That's correct.
Now, I believe you and your wife started the winery. Will you tell us about how it came about?
Well, I'll tell you my story. I'm a self-taught winemaker. My first memory of winemaking was in a basement in Staten Island, New York, with my Italian grandfather who came from Calabria, Italy. And I had the good fortune of being around that as a little kid, as a young adult, as an adult. And my grandfather made wine with California grapes, which were shipped by the produce people from California into New York.
Amazing.
And he made wine every year of his life until he couldn't do it anymore. I went in the real estate business and in 1987 picked it up as a hobby and started making wine with his little hand crusher and his little press. Made 2 barrels of wine, shared the wine with family and friends. The wine turned out well. It was a lot of fun, so we invited people to come next year. We went from 2 to 20 barrels in a basement in Seaside Heights, New Jersey. And every year after that, it kept growing until it evolved into an actual business. We launched the business in the mid-90s as the Bacchus School of Wine in New Jersey. And it evolved to the point where we actually franchised it in the late 90s. I moved my family here in 1997.
Closer to the grapes?
Get closer to the grapes, exactly, because I ship grapes to New Jersey.
Right.
I've been doing that for about 20 years. We ship about 200 ton of grapes every year in refrigerated trucks. And that business is still going. And we launched Domenico Winery here in 2004. We also have a winemaking club here as well.
I was going to ask you about that. Most people don't know you're not a typical winery. You're a winemaking club as well.
That's correct. So we offer the opportunity to the public to come in and make their own barrel of wine as a gourmet hobby, so to speak. And it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of families. We have the small winemaking equipment that they get to use, and actually it's a hands-on winemaking experience.
So how does that work? I've actually been in there and it's impressive. You have all the big barrels with people's names on the barrels.
That's correct.
So what's the minimum quantity someone would be able to make?
The minimum is a half a barrel, which is 12 cases.
Wow.
So we pair you up with another partner.
Oh, I see. And so how much work is done by the person who wants to make the wine? Is it turnkey? Did they come in and you already have the grapes and everything ready? Or do they?
Yes.
Some people bring their own grapes? No.
Some people do bring their own grapes. We have some small family vineyards in and around the hills in Santa Cruz, and we allow those participants to bring their own grapes.
Interesting.
But, go ahead.
So in terms of the types of wines or how many varieties you make?
So my experience in winemaking is different than if I were a graduate of UC Davis and became an enologist and a winemaker. I make over 20 different wines. So, and that's from my experience in the home winemaking business, because when we were doing the winemaking club in New Jersey, we would bring 24 different varietals. So we would do also blending at the crusher on the smaller varietals. In the winery, we make single varietal wines, blend prior to bottling, which is typical in the winery industry.
So to make wine, just to show I'm a little naive, if someone were to come in and say, I'd like to make my own wine, start to finish, to have the wine be drinkable, how long does that take?
10 months, yeah.
And it gets better after the 10 months?
And it ages.
They can be patient.
Some wines we recommend that they reserve, keep in the barrel for another year, like wines that have high tannins, cabs, big cabs, and some big Merlots. We recommend aging longer.
And then I know periodically you do wine tasting dinners at restaurants. Do you also distribute to restaurants? Or?
Yes, we're in about 40 different restaurants by the glass program, where you can have our wines by the glass, in a restaurant.
So what's the most fun part about owning and operating a winery like yours?
Well, it's a lifestyle business, but it's a passionate business.
Yes.
We work hard, but we enjoy ourselves as much as we can in the process.
Probably a lot easier when you're in the wine business, I would think. And what about tasting room? Tasting room hours?
We have a tasting room open 7 days a week from 12 to 5. We're located at 1697 Industrial Road in San Carlos. People ask, why did we pick San Carlos? And it was... before we decided to open a winery in California, we already had a vineyard in Amador County. So I grow Syrah and Primitivo on 8 acres there. We have additional land to plant, but my wife wasn't ready to move into a farm setting. So she's a city girl, and she likes
green acres.
She likes this area.
Green acres, right? That makes sense.
So we're postponing that. My goal is to someday relocate, some of the winery business out there.
So most of your grapes come from Santa Cruz County, or the Santa Cruz Mountains, I should say, which is normally our appellation
right.
for the
so
locals.
We're members of the Santa Cruz Wine
Right.
Growers Association because that's the closest viticultural area.
Right.
So we do Chardonnay and Pinot Noir from Santa Cruz. And the association is a great way to market Domenico Winery to the local businesses and to Santa Cruz appellation. So
you're an expert on wine. I mean, to me, the Santa Cruz Mountain appellation is taking off. I think people are starting to recognize it. How do you think it compares to other areas? And
it's very unique. We've got different soils, unique climate. Being near the ocean, it's cooler. So Chardonnay and Pinot Noir tend to grow really well in those cooler climates. They like the little bit of fog. They do like heat as well, but it seems it's a nice balance. And in the hotter regions, they've been very successful growing Cabernets and other varietals as well.
And doesn't that association have a passport system? There's some kind of a system where you can do multiple wine tastings?
That's correct. I think it's 2 or 3 times a year. There's a passport where you can buy a passport and go to all the wineries. And a lot of them don't even have tasting rooms, so it's kind of unique. They open up for those special weekends, and that's a lot of fun.
Right. So do most of the people who end up starting to make wine or trying to make it start out in the tasting room and then they get the bug because they've seen others, or how does it, are they?
Well, yes. We actually, when we first opened the winery, we had more home winemakers in the Bacchus Winemaking Club than winery clients because we were new in the wine business.
Right.
It's since shifted since the economy changed a little, but we still have a good group of home winemakers, and we're always getting more from people that do come in. And we do hold special events like barrel tasting parties for the home winemaking club, and invite the general public to those. So it's an exciting. The other new thing we're offering is we're actually expanding our space to allow other small wineries to come in and utilize our equipment.
Interesting.
So if you want to be a startup winery and you don't want to buy a building and invest in all the equipment, you can share our space and be an alternating proprietor. So.
And I think that's how, when I spoke with Bart Collucci of Barterra Winery, when he somehow ended up buying a couple of tons of grapes, he said, oh, and I went locally and made it, and I said, it has to be at Domenico, right? Or it had to have been at Domenico.
Yes, he has had wine made at our facility.
Right.
So we offer that service as well. There's a custom crush service.
And then you also have special events, I think. I've seen.
Yes, we have a great facility. We're approved to host up to 250 people. And we do weddings, anniversary parties, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs.
You name it.
You name it, we have the party. It's a great facility for parties. And we're working on a little bit of a nicer curb appeal for the outside. And hopefully in the next 6 months we'll have that, so it'll have a new look from outside.
And your wife Gloria is involved in the business. What's her role in
Every
the business?
day.
Long days.
We're partners, and she's the CFO, and she oversees all the events.
Great. Well, Dominic, thank you so much for being here. What we're going to do now is show our viewers a couple of farm interviews, and talk a little bit about some other fresh and local products in San Mateo County. So I'm hoping that you'll join with me in watching those.
Thank you, Ann. Appreciate it.
We're here in Pacifica at the Costside Farmers Market, and we're here with one of everybody's favorite farmers, Farmer John Muller, owner of Daylight Farms, also Farmer John's Pumpkins, known to many. John, will you tell us about Daylight Farms and the produce that you have here at the Farmers Market? What do you grow?
Yeah, so we're kind of a little unique operation in Half Moon Bay. We have a lot of just fresh greens, and that's what our Costside is known for. A number of growers are growing different items. So today we have some Swiss chard, we have some favas, as you mentioned, and we have our herbs, and then we have a few onions for the first time this year. And then
nice.
The coast grows good beets, and beets are very healthy for everyone, and people are loving our beets. So we just try to grow good fresh product, and as I said earlier to people, that we're just 15 minutes down the road with the new tunnel now here in Pacifica, and so people love coming by, and most of our product was picked within the last 5 hours.
Wow. So in terms of beets, is it true, is that just the up-and-coming vegetable? They seem to be on everyone's menu, and I see Daylight Farms beets on a lot of menus.
Well, they're just so healthy for everyone,
Yes.
too. And beets like nice, cool growing conditions. And actually, unfortunately, this winter, we had no rain and no cold weather, but the coast is cooler than inland. So, yeah, no, beets are very popular and very healthy. And they can be used in a variety of ways, which I never used to like hot cooked beets, and now we're doing that, too. And so
good.
we like that.
So any other vegetables that are becoming trendy that you're growing, or you're seeing any trends with other ones?
Without a doubt, and we have some coming because the winter crop finished earlier, but kale is very, very
Right, kale,
popular.
of course, that's
kale
right.
is just fabulous, and then all of our Costside English peas are coming in. And then, I just noticed coming up the road here, the Brussels sprout friends are starting to plant their first Brussels
Great.
sprouts. So, we'll get in the groove here, and the crowd is wonderful, and these are nice, wonderful, certified markets that we love.
Great. So tell us now about switching hats. Tell us about your pumpkin farm. How many pumpkins do you grow or harvest every year?
Well, it's interesting because I've worked on the seeds last night in between, and so I have 4 giant competitive ones already planted.
Wow.
So those are with the secret sauce. And then it looks like we're going to have about 53,000 plants.
Oh my gosh.
But we're going to have about 47 varieties. I got some new squashes from all over the world, so it's going to be really fun. I got a lot of unique stuff this year. Hopefully they all get growing.
Great. So in terms of people picking up pumpkins for cooking, some are suitable and some are not.
And actually, we've redirected our whole theme this year for the cooking squashes.
Oh, you have?
So we got
Okay.
some real heirloom varieties from different growers throughout the world. And I don't know what they taste like yet, but they look pretty weird. So hopefully they'll be good.
So what's the earliest time people can actually go to the pumpkin farm? I mean, October is obviously pretty packed, right?
Now,
But-
we're really working on our transplants this coming week here in May, first week of May. And then we will hopefully be picking some squashes by the first 10 days of September.
Nice.
And it's interesting you ask that because most of the time we sell about 80% not orange up until October.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
They want the orange at the Halloween time.
Now, I've noticed on your pumpkin farm you have a teepee. Will you
Yes.
talk about that a little bit? What's that about?
Sure. Many, many years ago, I have a Native American friend, and we talked about it, and it is very spiritual to us, and we respect it. And we've had proposals in there. We've had prayers for, illnesses that we baby boomers are all kind of facing. So it's very nurturing. And then when we do the thousands of school children, we do a reading in there with them, and we try to get everyone calm and comfortable in the Native American teepee.
Now, my recollection is you do something with disabled school children as well out there every year, do you not?
Sure. Our farm is kind of special in a way, we feel, because there's not a lot of distractions. We don't do the entertainment like our neighbors all do, which is wonderful. But we kind of keep it strictly agriculture and nurturing and autumn, fall harvest.
Great. So with that, John, I thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
And we're going to talk to Eda a little bit. Now we're here with Eda Muller, the other half of Daylight Farms and Farmer John's pumpkins. So it's our understanding that you are the expert on the giant pumpkins, and you've had some champions, right? Have you not grown some championship pumpkins?
Yes. I started out growing them, and then after a few years, Farmer John started. So then we had, the big contest, and our biggest one was 1,200.
1,200 pounds?
That was the year mine was 1,200, and his was 1,185. So now he's doing a little more of the growing. We help each other, but he's now.
You have a family competition, in other words?
Yes.
Now, he mentioned something a year or two ago about, I don't know what it was with the weather, and he said you had fans going on your pumpkins, or what's involved in that?
It was one very, very dreary coastal year where we hardly ever saw the sun, and we had to, at that time we did everything outdoors, and we had to have a cover over it, and we had stem rot, and we had to have a fan to keep it dry, but then we needed to have some kind of heat, and the squirrels were coming by
geez.
it. It was a very challenging year.
Did you have to sleep with it?
Almost. Well, that was the year we had the 1,200 pounder.
Oh my gosh.
The day before we had 3 that were very nice. And the day before the weigh-off, one of them had a big hole in it. That a rodent near the creek had bore a hole in it. And so John kept watch of the other two for the rest of
Babysat for them?
24 hours, yes.
So now, what's the secret to growing them? Is it in the seeds? I mean, we see these giant pumpkins, which really don't resemble pumpkins. You might want to tell people what they look like.
Well, since about 41 years ago, they started hybridizing, not genetically modifying where you're putting a shark into a pumpkin seed, but open air cross-pollinating large squash and large pumpkins.
Oh, no wonder.
And all these different types of that family, the genus of that family, to have giant pumpkins. Some have more orange, some don't.
Okay.
Now different people are trying to get like the most perfect giant pumpkin that's orange and looks like a pumpkin. But because of the squash crossbreeding, that's why some of them
That makes
just
sense.
look very.
I get it. Okay. So now you're the seed expert, John said. Is that all kinds of pumpkin seeds, or the big ones, or which?
That's nice. He thinks I'm an expert. We, because our pumpkin farm is a little different than some of the others. Ours is more to embrace the pumpkin as opposed to other things that some of the other farms do. So we have over 80 varieties of pumpkins, and so that put us on a search throughout the world for seeds.
Wow.
And I came across these seeds from Italy, and when I found them, I also found all these other heirloom seeds that I remember my grandfather growing in his garden. And so I asked who sells them in Western United States, and they said, well, we need someone to sell them.
Oh, perfect.
So John and I thought maybe by being distributors of these seeds, we would be able to stay in farming because something to supplement the farm income in these challenging times. And over the last few years, we've done a lot of seed shows, and John speaks on all this up at like the Northwest Garden Show.
Because they need a seedy character, right?
And so we finally developed a website and a catalog, and so we have a company called The Heirloom Seed Store.
Oh, interesting.
And it's an online store.
Great. So one final question for you. I know you're a great cook and you have all kinds of recipes. Where those are found on your website, I believe?
Well, we have several recipes on farmerjohnspunkins.com website, and we will be putting more in, and we've had people ask to try to do a cookbook, so that could be in the offing.
Good. Well, thank you so much, Eda.
You're welcome.
We appreciate your time.
Great seeing you. Thanks for coming to the market.
We're here at Barterra Winery in Half Moon Bay with owner Bart Collucci and Director of Marketing Mary Corcoran. And thank you so much for having us in your beautiful setting with your wine tasting room. Now, Bart, the wine industry is a fairly new endeavor for you, right? How long ago did you go into the wine business?
Approximately 8 years ago.
8 years ago. And what made you do that?
Well, I was in the corporate world, and I ran out of steam in that world, and I had to do something else. So this just happened to be a thing that I really liked, and I decided I would give it a go. And I think primarily is we had a gallery, and I really felt that wine and art really go together. And so I said I'll get the wine and push the art, and it worked. And then just kept growing from there.
Now, I believe you told me that at one time someone just said to you, we want you to buy some grapes and try the winemaking business. Is that how you got started?
Yeah, I had a corporate friend from Philadelphia who owned a winery in Napa, Guevara, and I went to visit him one day, and the lady who was working behind the counter got in a discussion with her, and she said that her husband had a vineyard, and he had a lot of Merlot grapes. And no one was buying them because that movie had come out, Sideways.
Oh.
So all his grapes were ending up on the ground. And I said, that's not fair. I said, maybe I'll make some wine. So I bought all the grapes, like 10 barrels. We ordered some new French oak barrels, Bordeaux barrels from France, and we made the Merlot. And my thought was, by the time this Merlot is ready, everyone will forget about that movie,
Right.
and they'll start drinking Merlot. And sure enough, it happened. And sure enough, I had a great wine, and we sold out of it. And then with those barrels, the second year, French oak, we put in a Cabernet, which are 06 Cabernet. That's won a lot of medals, and it's just a phenomenal wine. And so that's what got me into it. It's a little bit at a time, and just kept growing.
And now how many wines do you make?
We make about 6 wines. I don't physically, the Merlot, I physically made that. I used La Nebbia's facility, and we made that wine. And then I just started to buy the grapes and contract with the winemakers. So we have licenses, DBAs, AKAs, with other wineries and vineyards to make the wine that we want.
Okay. Now, I understand you have a unique business model. You created something that really hadn't been done very much in the wine business before to get it to consumers, or?
Well, the model I have, it's a direct-to-the-consumer model. So we don't sell to restaurants. You'll find it in a few restaurants because they're friends of mine. We don't have it in, I don't sell it retail. And the reason for that is the wine is such premium wine that you really don't know how it's being handled.
I see.
And that's my whole program. So direct to the consumer, when someone buys a bottle in here, we know that they've got a good bottle of wine.
Right.
And unless it's corked or something like that,
Sure.
but highly unlikely. So we have a very nice wine club. And I think this is where the wine market's going, direct to the consumer. All the statistics say that's where it's going. And the being on Main Street,
Yes.
walk in, is very good.
So, Mary, what are you seeing in the tasting room? Are there any particular favorites, or is it the award winners that tend to be the customer favorites, or what are you seeing?
You know, people love the award winners. I mean, you know, I think they want to make sure that a judge has already said this is a great wine. But I'll tell you the truth that we don't even have a dump bucket in our tasting
That's
room.
interesting. You're right. I didn't see one in
And
there.
we are rarely asked to, you know, I don't want any more of this wine. So every wine that we oversee the production process or Bart hand selects it. So everything is just top quality. And I think Bart has a saying that says, you know, if you have good grapes, good barrels, it's hard to screw up a wine. And, you know, it's really not rocket science, but he does, you know, pay top dollar for his grapes. So people come in after maybe having an experience where they like some, they don't like some. You know, I always ask, you know, what do you typically drink
Sure,
at home?
of course.
But Chardonnays and Cabernet, which are the ones that we enter in the competitions, those are, you know, they're the top selling wines, and those are varietals that people are familiar with. So typically, if they want to drink white, they like the Chardonnays, reds, Cabernets, but everything that we have is great.
So what are some of you've had a lot of recent winners. What are some of the recent awards that you've won?
Well, we won we've just recently, haven't got the medal yet, we won a silver medal for the 09 Cabernet, or 10 Cabernet from the Finger Lakes competition, same where we won the double gold. The grapes for that year the growing season wasn't as great for that year as it was for the 09. And so then we received another bronze medal for this Cabernet. And we must have, every wine we have has won a medal. The wines that we have made for us, okay? I select the winemaker, select the wine, taste the wine. Those are the ones that win the medals. And like we said, I mean, we're real proud of that Cabernet because it's competition of 9,000 wines from all over the world, every state. They had 9,000 wines, 120 judges gave it a gold medal. In order to get a double gold medal, each judge has to give it a gold medal.
Wow.
So we're real proud of that. 120 judges.
That's amazing.
120 judges gave it a gold medal, and both competitions. And then I said, well, maybe let me just try Sunset. They're very tough, and Sunset gave it a silver medal, which they don't give out many medals. Okay, so we're so proud of that wine, and it's a wine that it's what they call the free run wine. Juice is free run. We don't use a press. We just crush the wine, and whatever comes out of that crush, we make the wine. And then we don't filter the wine. We fine it. They call it fining with the egg yolks. Okay, so that takes the tannin. Okay, attaches to it, and I mean in layman's terms. So we don't filter the wine. And then when we bottle the wine, we basically throw the first 2 cases away because it's starting to, the line is starting to stabilize. We don't throw it away. We give it to friends to drink. And, but it's a real process. So that's what makes it an expensive wine to make. And by winning the awards that we have won for those wines, allows you to put the price on it.
Right, sure, of course. So for people who are interested in coming in and tasting it, when is your tasting room open?
We're open Thursdays through Monday. That's our Monday through Friday.
Okay.
And we're open 12:30 to 5:30. In addition to the tasting room, we have this beautiful courtyard space that you see here. So this time of year, people love to sit outside and enjoy a glass of wine. And you can do a wine tasting, wine by the glass, bottle, even by the case, yes, if you're interested.
Well, great. Well, thank you both so much, Bart. Thank you so much. You have
You're quite
tremendous
welcome.
wines. And Mary, thank you for being here as well.